Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us in the Goalkeepers podcast. Today, we have two coaches coming on and talking to us about the month of October. So, this morning with us, we have Coach Paul Jennison and Coach Tony Vu, who both happen to be from Florida. So, Coach Paul, let's go with you first. Please tell us about yourself and tell us where you are right now.
Well, Art and Tony, very nice to see you both, and Art, thanks for having us on the podcast today. Yeah, as you said, name Paul Jennison, currently down in Bradenton, Florida, working with IMG Academy. Fantastic soccer club down here on the in the west coast of Florida, and obviously we've got some fantastic opportunities for our athletes. I've had a pretty successful journey and fortunate journey to find myself down here. I've been very, very lucky to start off playing collegiately over here in the States, various levels from junior college to Division One, while getting my degree. And once I was done with my playing experience, I actually ended up as a high school teacher in the west suburbs of Chicago, which was not necessarily where I thought the career was going to start out, but I decided it was going to be good for an opportunity for a year, and that ended up lasting into a decade of great experience. So I was a boys and girls head varsity coach, as well as a physical education and health teacher. And then that's all that learning, that on-field corrections, on-field mistakes, that led me to the college realm, where I ended up at Northwestern University, which was an unbelievable opportunity, a fantastic learning curve, brilliant networking, quality players, quality people, unbelievable coaching staff at the top of the game, which then ultimately, along with that, led me down to my opportunity here. So really, really fortunate in terms of all the experiences I've been able to have in the game so far. Roll that in with coaching education. Either one, being involved in licenses, or two, taking them myself. And I think ultimately it leads to the whole holistic experience as you're moving forward. So all in all, really, really excited to have the opportunity to chat with you guys today, and looking forward to sharing a little bit more information.
Fantastic. And what do you do at the academy there?
I'm sorry, I apologize. I lost you there briefly.
No, it's okay. What do you do at the academy there? At IMG?
I'm sorry, one second, mate. Go again. I lost you. One quick second.
What do you do at the academy there at
Oh,
IMG?
my apologies, pal. My apologies. I am head of goalkeeping at IMG, so I'm very, very fortunate that I get to work with both the boys and girls program. Work with all the age groups of goalkeepers. All of our teams have the opportunity to not only impact the goalkeeping environment, but be involved with the team environment. One of our big roles and one of my firm beliefs is that, as well as training the goalkeeper to be successful within the goalkeeping environment, we have to train them to be successful within the team environment. And the only way, really, I feel like you get the most impact as a coach is to be there to see if what you were training and working with in those specific actions is transitioning to the team environment. With that, obviously, then the continuity is being at games and helping with the goalkeeping warm-up, and also being an assistant coach. And I think one of the big things that we're really trying to promote in my current position is how goalkeeping coaches are the best assistant coaches possible. We're not there simply to warm up one position or work with one position. It's to be, as the phrase I like to term, being over here now, is you really are a defensive coordinator. You have to know what the goalkeeper is doing. You have to know how that connects and links with the defensive unit. You also need to know how the goalkeeper affects and impacts the defensive shape. And then obviously within the game we play, that transitions into attacking shape. So it's so much more in that holistic piece for what we're looking to do. And I think if you can impact the goalkeeper's ability, you can really have a massive impact on the whole team environment.
No, that's so important. You're talking about like coaching education, and then the actual role of the goalkeeper coach or defensive coordinator. Because I think when I went through my courses, through my goalkeeping stuff, it wasn't just like, okay, let's train inside the 18 and that's where we're gonna stay. I mean, it was connecting those lines, because how do you connect the goalkeeper to the defenders, and then to the midfield, and ultimately to that final third, and how those pieces come together, right? Because it is a team sport. At the end of the day, it is a team sport, and being able to, as a coach, connect those lines and have that goalkeeper stay connected at all times is super super important. So thanks for bringing that up, Paul. Now,
Absolutely.
and Tony, talk to us. I know you're here, you're constant, but talk to us. What are you doing now?
Sure.
Um, what's going on?
Um, yeah, I'm on the Florida ODP goalkeeping staff. I've been doing that for 5+ years now. Currently, I reside in Gainesville, Florida, North Florida. It's about an hour and a half north of Orlando. And I coach club there, the director of goalkeeping at Legacy Soccer Club. And doing that for a decade now, and it's great seeing young goalkeepers, blossom and get up to the next level and into the college game. So it's been fun. I actually went down to see FAU this past weekend. Had a goalkeeper at Marshall play, and that was nice to see him. So my first goalkeeper that I trained in Gainesville is playing in college now. So it's starting to see the rewards of hard work through the years pay off. So it's a fun time for our club right now, for our goalkeeper. So
So how do you, as a coach, see or view that transition from these like kids who are like who may be uncoordinated, looking to learn, eager sponges, and then you see the whole process, and now you finally see kind of like that end result of, and it's not a
sure,
finished product, right? But
yeah,
you see that end result of getting to a college that maybe they wanted to get into. So walk me through that process a little bit. What's that like for you?
sure. So like you said, I think early on when if they soak it up like sponges, it helps them in the long run. Gets them motivated to play the position and gets them excited to keep going. Mainly, um, especially goalkeeping. We're all about longevity, and if you see like Buffon, those goalkeepers, they're 35, 40 years old still playing. And I think they had have to take care of their body and take care of their preparation early on in the goalkeeping careers. So it's a long journey, but everything is a process, and as long as you can teach the fundamentals and the foundation early on and keep harping that, um, it, it really helps them when they get into the college game and into the pro game also. So just teaching them bit by bit, and as long as they can take on the demands, it's good for them.
Now, okay, so now let's talk about October, right? October, identifying talent in goalkeepers. What does that mean to you? Who wants to go first? Oh, we lost him. Go ahead, Tony. What does identifying goalkeepers, talent in goalkeepers mean to you?
Sure. Well, my topic is going to be off the field, identifying talent off the field, and I think their personality, what they can bring to the position, and also bravery, especially at a young age. The kids who are more willing to get in goal at an early age, it kind of helps tell, okay, maybe he wants to be a goalkeeper. Maybe we should start training. But I think that bravery aspect of it really shows you who really wants it.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And Paul, so we were just talking about like some of the identifying factors of talent in goalkeepers. One of the things that he just mentioned was about age, right? Like at in your opinion, at how young should we look to maybe start identifying goalkeepers and now maybe start putting them in a situation where they're goalkeepers full time? What do you think that age range is?
That's a brilliant question, lads. It's. I think first and foremost, and I apologize, I lost you for a second, so I don't want to overlap what Tony said. But when they're going through that exploration phase, so to speak, and they're really trying to enjoy the game, I think they've got to be able to play, and as well as trying to catch and and think from a goalkeeper perspective, you've got to master the ball at the feet as well. And I think too far, the biggest critique I could say that so far in my experience worldwide is I see that, goalkeepers are often, they're forgotten about that part of their game. And especially with the trends of the modern game, we seem to do a little bit of a disservice by not letting them have the opportunity to get the ball at the feet and practice and channel their inner Ronaldo and Messi. I think firmly around the ages of 12 and 13 is maybe when you're starting to think about a little bit more specialization. I see no reason if anyone wants to go and go before that. They seem to enjoy diving around. I think I heard Tony mention the bravery piece. I think that's absolutely spot on. They are fearless. They seem to have that enjoyment, and they love diving around and trying to, protect the goal. So as long as there is there and there's no fear factor, I see no reason with not experiencing any position within the field. But I would have thought around 12 and 13, and that's when you start to think about specialization and who might actually have the skill set and the mindset to move forward. Otherwise, just enjoy it, have fun with the game, because especially with a hand-eye dominated country like we have with basketball, football, baseball, I think that those skill sets are the easiest to pick up. The foot-eye coordination with soccer tends to be more difficult in that realm.
No, I totally agree, and obviously it's cultural here, right? That a whole piece of being able to play multiple sports and enjoy different seasons of sports, and that factor where there's options of having to commit to one sport, but also if you don't want to commit to it, you have that ability to be able to try multiple sports during the different parts of the year. So that's super important, and that's something that in the U.S. we have that. So something definitely to consider. Now for you, what are some of the factors that now you're looking at when identifying talent in goalkeepers? Paul, what do you think?
I think you got your two sets, right? You got your on-field set and then your off-field set in terms of what you're looking for. I think, in terms of scouting, identifying, recruiting, I think that identifying a good goalkeeper is fairly similar for all of us. We can look on the field and we can observe certain actions that they perform, which we think will be beneficial in our environment. I think the more difficult piece is really that it's that holistic piece. It's that off-field, the personality piece. Are they coachable? Is this somebody that's going to not only be a great teammate, but take the information you give them and actually put it into a game setting or put it into your environment? And again, Tony and I might have two very different things that we need. Is the goalkeeper able to do that when I'm looking to play direct, but Tony's looking to build? The goalkeeper might be a very talented individual, but if they can't execute that skill set that we need in our environment, they might not be successful. So I think the coachability piece is absolutely massive. In the world now, I think leadership is even more difficult to find because people have to be prepared to stand up to do what is right and necessary within a game setting without worrying about reaction. And I think that would be something that it can certainly be taught, but it goes back to when you were talking about the younger goalkeepers jumping in. It's that fearlessness and that ability to compete and win. And that's why I think that the next one is, being a ball winner. I think now it's a very reactionary game and a reactionary position we play in, but if you're proactive and can organize and can stop the ball and can go and win the ball, I think that's kind of a bit of a flux between the two on field and off field. But my last one is, a positive influence on and off the field. I think ultimately you are going to affect your environment one way. You're going to affect it, one way. And it's just your choice whether it's going to be positively or negatively. So ultimately, we want people that are going to be able to help take the coach's message and put it through to the team, to be a good teammate and to understand what that means. And then most importantly, compete and want to win. I think if you can do all those things, simple as that, right? Really easy to identify that when you're watching a game for 10 minutes. But I think you can sometimes tell by the demeanor. And again, I think sometimes on that flip side too, that one of my personal things that I always find the most fascinating, and I know goalkeepers are always different. I love to see what the goalkeepers and the goalkeeping coaches are doing pre-game, because obviously we don't often see most of our other environments in terms of practice settings, but I love to see how the goalkeeping coach interacts with the goalkeepers. Do they jump into the team warm-up? do their own warm up. What's the reaction of the warm up like pre-game? And how does that transition over to the actual game setting? Is it intense? Is it casual? And I think you can often tell a lot by the mindset of the goalkeeper by how their warm-up is. So that's always something to fascinate and look for as well. That kind of leads me to maybe see what will happen within the game setting as we're looking to identify.
Yeah, and Tony, like a lot of those character traits that Paul has just mentioned, right? How do they how do they transition to off the field, right? How do they transition
Sure.
to off the field? Because what ends up happening is a lot of times is we're really really good at the on field and the soccer piece, but then off the field and maybe almost away from soccer, you are you become like a whole different person, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So how did those like preparation, that team environment, that all those little pieces that come um, that come together, how do all those little pieces translate to off the field?
Sure.
You think?
Um, Off the field, I think leadership. Um, I think goalkeepers, especially young goalkeepers, that's where you kind of learn how to be a leader on the field with your teammates, and then you have to translate it off the field, maybe in the classroom, or maybe say you have a small group with your classmates that you have to do, and no one wants to step up, but you have that goalkeeping experience where you learn to lead and you step up, get out of your comfort zone, and lead that group to maybe an A grade or whatever. But yeah, I think on the field translates off the field into the classroom, at home, with your social groups. I think goalkeeping and just being on the field prepares you for life. Sport is a great metaphor for life. Learning, how to be a great teammate, or just being a great student. Preparation, like on the field. You need to prepare in school for your schoolwork, tests and all that. So really, it's the same.
And what ends up happening a lot of times is it, there's a separation of the two, right? There's a separation of both of like, well, I'm a soccer player and and a student, right? So a lot of times you kind of don't bring them both together. So you kind of shut off the one, especially at younger, right? Obviously, younger kids don't understand this part, right? But a lot of times you cut off, you kind of like, okay, this is my schedule. So from like 5 to 7, I'm a soccer player. From 7:30 to when I go to bed, I'm a student, right? But now, how when we're identifying those goalkeepers and that talent, how do we find those goalkeepers who can do both and like become students of the game? Because I think that's super important. And because being a student of the game doesn't necessarily mean you're a talented goalkeeper or a talented player, or it just means you're vested in your education and you want to get better, right?
Sure.
So, how do you think that could ultimately translate to on the field and becoming that goalkeeper, later, that talented goalkeeper down the road?
Sure. I think being curious, just having a curious mind, just asking questions. Um, that's that's what I can think of. Paul, you want to jump in?
I think Art actually gave the answer to the question when he said student of the game. That was brilliant. I mean, that really is what it comes down to, isn't it, lads? It's people that want to continue education, to constantly evolve in the game. I'm sure if the three of us and the coaches that are listening think back to different parts in their career, how maybe some things have changed in terms of their delivery of a message or even the message itself. I think it's that constant evolvement of the person, having that growth mindset. And I like, Tony, the word used with curiosity. I think that is to try and figure out exactly, where you might fall in some of your beliefs in the game. But also, I think it's that, the understanding that mistakes, they're incredibly important to the learning environment. And I think this also goes down as well with where my tangent is going is it leads you to the environment that you set for your goalkeepers. If they can feel like they can challenge themselves and be competitive, but make mistakes and learn from it, I think you're going to get that buy-in, exactly what we're talking about. And I think it makes it easier. So we're not throwing out random statements like, oh, goalkeepers, you've got to talk. You've got to be a leader. Well, what does that mean when we say we want them to talk? We want them to be a leader. How can we show them, knowing fine well that they're not going to get it correct on the first time, but ultimately their response to something that goes wrong is sometimes much more important from a learning perspective than getting the action right on the first occasion.
Yeah, and so like we've been touching on like a lot of like the tactical and the mental side. Now, what about that talent on the technical side or maybe physical side, right? I know for me, I had a lot of limiting beliefs that I couldn't develop certain things. Like you were either fast or you weren't, right? Can you know? And ultimately, I was proven wrong because there was a lot of players who I was a tons faster than at one point that then just like went by me, right? And I did the same to other players too. We all develop at different ages and stages. That's just normal. Obviously, I didn't know that back then. But now with that piece, with like the physical attributes, what do you say to the players who are maybe like, well, I don't know if I can develop this. I don't know if I can get better at this, or my reflections are what my reflexes are what they are, right? So how do you overcome that mentality to be like, no, you can get better at this, you just need to put in the work? What do you guys think?
Tony, you want to lead that one?
Sure. Yeah, the physical side, I think working on your weaknesses more, to kind of balance out your strengths, um, will help goalkeeper feel more confident, when they have to deal with a back pass, and they're not comfortable with their feet. I think just working on your deficiencies, working on those, to improve, will help. I know being a shorter goalkeeper, getting those high balls, was tough, but working on your footwork, getting your feet back, getting behind the ball, all that, you have to work harder in that aspect. Same thing with like taller goalkeepers. For some, it might be harder for them to get low. So I think just working on what you need to improve on really helps, shape your game.
What do you think, Paul?
No, 100% agree. I think obviously, in terms of the modern game, as you would say, sometimes we're seeing the profile or the physical profile of the modern day goalkeeper seem to change a little bit. It used to be 20 years ago that every goalkeeper in the men's and women game was 6'2" to 6'4", and everybody had to, it was claim crosses. That's your objective, and that's what everything was built around. Whereas, like Tony said, with that skill set can have some deficiencies, and maybe it is going low to the ground or trying to adjust. But you see trends in the game now with blocking shapes and a lot more distribution and build from the back. Like these skill sets are changing what we need from goalkeepers, and I think that's that's very relevant for them to hear. I am a firm believer that if you've got a strength which differentiates you from somebody else, I don't feel like you should spend more time working on your weaknesses than your strengths, because then it just becomes catch up and detrimental. If you are very good at distributing and you're a very good shot stopper, to spend 90% of your time working on clear probably isn't the best allocation of your time. But at the same time, trying to elevate that level and understanding that it will make you a proficient keeper is key. I think from the physical standpoint, when we're talking about just general strength and mobility, everybody's on a different pathway with maturation. And I think that's something to help them realize too, that comparison is probably not a good thing for youth goalkeepers. You might have two 15-year-olds that are at very different stages in terms of maturation, and it could be almost a foot of height difference between two of them. You've also got to think, if somebody grows 4 inches to 6 inches in a year to 18 months, they've learned a skill set and have to relearn it as almost a different goalkeeper, which can be incredibly tricky for a young athlete, especially if the coordination piece is separated. So I think really trying to encourage the enjoyment of the game. In terms of the technical piece, I think sometimes we separate that as though it's on an island in terms of, oh, we're going to do technical training, we're going to do this. I think the reality is that there's nothing you will do in goalkeeping that isn't technically decided or tactically decided or physical or cognitive. Everything's always rolled into one. Even if you're striking a ball in isolated training with a goalkeeper one-on-one, you're still working on the tactical and technical piece. Like, why would you move your feet into line to catch the ball with a certain technique? So then that's tactical and technical. Physically, how would you adjust your body to get in line? Cognitively, how would you set yourself in a position to get your hands there? So I like to frame it more of cues and actions and cues and responses rather than technical tactical, because then I think you find yourself going at, you get known as a certain type of coach. Like, oh, he's a physical goalkeeping coach, or she's a technical goalkeeping coach. Whereas I think what we do a disservice to the work we're actually doing with the overall position.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important that I know that when we talk about like the United Goalkeeping Alliance, we always talk about the four pillars of the game, and we talk about it. Um, yeah, it sucks that he left. I was gonna just drop some knowledge on him right now, but no, but it's like that's why it's so important that that the United Goalkeeper Alliance, Goalkeeping Alliance, talks about those four pillars of the game, right? Because it's a holistic thing, and I was just talking about how the Alliance talks about the four pillars of the game, right? And it's a holistic experience. And you're absolutely right. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're training one goalkeeper or the team or the goalkeeper and the defensive line. It's all together, right? It's all those pieces coming together and how you can best coach those pieces that ultimately help that development of that player. So, as we wrap it up, what is something we look forward to seeing in your presentation? Paul, go first.
Well, I hope we didn't already give out too much there. I feel like all three of us, we could have gone on for another hour with talking about that. I think really it's understanding that there's a lot that as you go through the process that coaches can't see. You've got a very prominent role when you're on the field in terms of how you can influence your environment. I think some of the things we're looking for is how do you positively influence the environment. Also, it's just to know that your biggest recruiting tool or your biggest selling tool and your biggest endorsing tool is always you. And your actions will always ultimately speak louder than your words. So I think it's helping the goalkeepers understand that, there's always people that will be able to see you playing in games and in training. But you've just got to make sure that the actions that you're conducting yourselves with are the ones that you want people to see, because ultimately that's what they're going to best evaluate you on.
Thank you. What about you, Tony? What do we have forward to seeing you do?
Sure. Helping present off the field, identifying talent off the field. And like what you touched on earlier, Coach Art, about translating on the field to off the field, and trying to connect those two together. And also, I believe your family upbringing and what type of support system you have really dictates your personality and how well you can bond with the group or not bond with the group. So I think that's an important aspect of off the field. And also, where do you find your motivation? How does that translate to on the field? And bring it back to the first week.
No, and it's super important that we learn that stuff because a lot of times, like I feel the family piece and the family support, and even when you don't have that, how can you still create your own environment, right? And how can you own your environment, right? And when we're talking about kids, there's certain things that are within their control. There's certain things that are not within their control. However, right, attitude, hard work, showing up, a lot of that stuff, and how you present yourself when you show up to a room, to the field, all those things matter, right? So it's super important that we cover both of these pieces, as far as identifying the talent on the field, the characteristics, and even how they translate off the field. So thank you both for your time this morning. I appreciate you both, and we look forward to seeing you guys present in October. Thank you very much, guys.
All right, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us. Take care, guys.
All right,
You
you
too.
too. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Art.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.